All right, welcome back to Paperstac Podcast. I'm so excited today. Is this the first one?
This is the first one
In this series. Yep. So we are doing a new series called My First Note. And we're going to start interviewing people. They're going to tell us a little about who they are, and they're going to go through their first note purchase. And so this is the first bite at the apple, if you will. We got our very first guest.
Yeah.
Tell me about him. Tell me a little bit about him. Dan Deppen is his name.
We don't want to spoil the good part.
No, we're not going to spoil it. But Dan Deppen, he's been in the note space since, I think, 2017, right there. He's got an engineering background, so he's very methodical and has developed a super intriguing course for those folks who are getting in the note space that teaches you how to run due diligence.
Yeah.
And it's the detailed checklist that everybody wants.
Yeah.
So,
without further ado,
let's go.
Let's jump in.
So happy to have you, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I guess first, let's start with just some stuff about you, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, and tell us who is Dan Deppen.
Yeah, who is you? Where'd you come from? How'd you get here? All that good stuff. We'd love to kind of dig in and set up the rest of the show.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep that concise. So I'm a pretty active note investor. So I've got a little over 50 notes at the moment. So a bunch of those in my self-directed IRA and then in my Fusion Notes business as well, both performing and non-performing, although mostly performing these days. I started my career as an engineer in the aerospace industry and later went to business school. So I'm a product manager in the tech industry now also.
Wow,
and then also within
quite a jump from aerospace to
it's a spread. Yeah, I've done a lot of different things, you could say. Yeah,
That's cool.
But within the world of notes, like I said, pretty active. Have a pretty decent sized portfolio now. My assistant Karen, who helps me out with a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and then I've got a handful of online training courses for notes that I've built over time, including like Note Launchpad, that basically takes the a lot of the systems and processes that I've built over time. So like as a engineer and MBA, I'm like pretty systems focused. Yeah. And, one of the things I always liked about notes is even though every deal is different, there's a fair amount of rinse repeat, right? Like as far as like the whole process of screening a note, due diligence, pricing, operating. And so kind of where my focus in notes has been maybe a little bit different than some has really been on trying to systematize those things and create standard operating procedures and checklists and calculators and that kind of thing. So that's sort of how I've approached it, who I am.
That's cool. Yeah, it makes sense with the engineering background, always about systems, right? How can we streamline it? How can we make it better? What's the most efficient way to accomplish and run this business? So I love it, man. When did you get into buying notes?
So I started around 2017. So back when I was a teenager, I started buying stocks. So I had always been pretty active as an investor in different things. And then I kind of reached a point where I wanted to diversify a little bit and put money into real estate. And even back then, I first started looking at single family rentals here in the Denver area where I live. And even back then, like the cap rates just weren't real great. Like the math on those was tough to work out. I haven't looked at it lately, but it's probably a lot worse even now. And so I was looking for alternatives in real estate, and that's when I came across notes. And I really latched onto that because, for one, my dad and my grandfather worked in the loan business, not mortgages specifically, but I kind of grew up around loans to a certain degree. And then when I was in business school, I took a elective course that I really liked in fixed income, basically doing like bond analysis, which is not directly what notes is, but there's a lot of like commonalities. And so that whole analytics approach, I really enjoyed. And so I discovered notes. It was in the early part of 17. And then I kind of started heading down the rabbit hole, like reading what I could, watching, videos and listening to podcasts. There wasn't nearly quite as much available back then, but in early 17 was when I got interested and started learning about it. And then kind of over the course of that year started going deeper.
Yeah, great. So you have 50 notes right now, but you still still have a full-time W-2 job also, and you've got it set up on so many systems.
I do, yeah.
Full-time W-2 and run a 50-note portfolio.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was actually took about 2 years in the middle of there where I focused on notes full time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really when I built out all those systems and built up the portfolio. And then I kind of reached a point where back a couple of years ago, deals were getting kind of hard to find there for a little bit. That sort of changed now. And then I kind of had the systems down where, it freed me up. I didn't need to really do that full time. And I missed being a product manager and kind of working on big tech projects. So now I'm at a point where I kind of have my cake and eat it too.
That's
and
great.
Do both. And I've kind of got the option, right? Like if I ever, chose to, or let's say you had some event where notes got like really, really attractive, I always have the flexibility to shift gears and I could always spool the note portfolio up bigger, if I chose to do that. But yeah, I do work full time in the tech industry. So I'm product manager at AWS, which is, pretty intense. So I definitely stay busy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I didn't know it was AWS.
Yeah.
That's awesome. For people that don't know that.
Yeah, that changed. So last year I moved over there. So I'm working on it's an enterprise SaaS application that just launched at the end of last year for supply chain. So like those target customers are like big Fortune 500s and things like that. So that's launched, and now nothing at Amazon has ever done, right? And so they're working on the next iteration of the next iteration and on and on. But that's really a lot of fun. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. That's really cool, man. You ever met Jeff, Mr. Bezos himself?
No, he was retired by the time I came in, so didn't get to see him. Yeah.
He did retire just in the last 3 years. So.
Good stuff. So, okay. So 2017, you start getting interested in notes. Do you remember how you found out about it? Was it kind of just by happenstance? Did you hear somebody talking about it?
I don't remember exactly how I found it. I remember I was looking at like different kinds of real estate investments, and it was like single family rentals in this area aren't going to work. And so it was probably through some like just various Google searches looking for like niche areas of real estate investing. And then I did find a couple podcasts. There was it had MBA. It was called like the Note MBA. Like those guys aren't really around anymore.
Robert Wood. Yeah.
Yeah, it was them. And that was kind of like the first thing I latched onto where I started to get like a little bit deeper into it.
Okay, so you started looking at it in 2017. When did you buy your first note? Do you remember?
Yeah, I bought the first note at the end of 2017. So it was about a 6-month period between when I first discovered it and got interested and when I actually bought. So, I mean, pretty slow overall, definitely kind of cautious. I did some, trying to remember what they were now. But there were like some kind of online note conferences that I did that I got some more information. I never did like a specific like training program or mastermind or anything like that before I bought. I ended up doing that later on, but not before I bought the first one.
What was your first note? Was it performing, non-performing? Tell us about it. Where'd you find it? Yeah. Like to close it?
Yeah. So I found it on Watermark Exchange. And so it was a performing contract for deed in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Part of the reason I chose that one was we were going, I live in Colorado. We were going to Michigan because this was like December when I bought it, end of the year. And we were going to Michigan to visit family, and we were passing right through there. And I had the opportunity to actually drive through the neighborhood and eyeball it before I bought it. So that's part of why I picked that specific one, because it's like right off of I-80 and Council Bluffs, just outside of Omaha. I wanted performing because my main goal with that was just to learn how the transaction worked. Because obviously, like any real estate transaction, or especially a note one, is far different than my experience buying stocks and options, where you go on E-Trade and just kind of click a button and it's done, right? Like the whole process tends to take a few weeks till it's all said and done with due diligence and getting loans transferred and all of that kind of good stuff. So what I did was, I did my own kind of amateur pricing analysis. I didn't have a good feel at the time for like what market level pricing was, right? It wasn't real transparent. Like, you started to get visibility into like what things are trading at. And so I did my own analysis. And so it was a contract for deed. I think it was probably written at like 9.9% interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up offering 85% of UPB on it. Cause like when that was discounted, my yield was whatever that was, 12 or 13%. In my self-directed IRA for performing notes seemed pretty good. And there's a lot of equity in it too. I think I paid $28,000 for the note. So the unpaid balance was probably somewhere in the 30s, and it was worth like about 80 at the time. It's probably worth a lot more. So I'm like, hey, I'm getting like a 12, 13% return on my retirement account with a lot of equity. This is a pretty good deal. Now, what I didn't know at the time was, I way overpaid for that. At the time, I probably could have got that for like 70% of UPB.
Definitely.
But I didn't know that, but it was still a good deal. What's up?
I said definitely in 2017, you probably could have got 70%. It's not, sure. I guess, 80, I guess 85 for a CFD
now
would be maybe a little high.
Now it's probably not crazy. Yeah.
Oh, not outrageous. Do you still have it, or?
I still got it. Yeah. So I still own it. Like, it's been performing. I haven't had to do much with it. There were a couple like times I got pinged about utility bills, and there was like one stretch where the borrower missed a couple payments and then got back on track. But I mean, for the most part, it's been pretty set and forget for whatever that's been, like 5.5 years now.
That's
so
awesome.
It worked out, real well. And it was good for me because I learned so much during it. I mean, for me, the biggest surprise was just how long everything took. Like, it was crazy, just like sending the sale agreement back and forth. And then, I had to figure out how to send a wire because I was funding it through the self-directed IRA. So I didn't actually have to send the wire there, but like there was all the back and forth with Quest on that. And then waiting for the servicing to get transferred, just how long all that took. Like, and granted, on this deal, it didn't take an excessively long period of time. It was probably pretty normal, but I learned a lot just going through that whole transaction and reading through all the loan documents and understanding those. I did have somebody that helped me review them that I paid a few bucks to kind of go through, give me a second set of eyes to make sure there wasn't some fatal title flaw or some, something on the O&E report or some kind of lien that was going to create an issue. So it was a really great learning experience for me. And even though I might have like overpaid on it, like I don't mind because I learned so much in that process. Yeah. I was kind of off to the races after that point. So like, I would encourage people not to get too stuck on the first deal and trying to make everything perfect. Like, do your homework, like make sure the loan is like enforceable. You can understand the property value. So you're not like making some big mistake where you're going to get zeroed out. But beyond that, don't worry about like optimizing every little thing. So otherwise it's going to take you forever to find a deal and it's going to drag on. Like I think there's a big difference between a note investor who's done maybe a lot of studying, but done 0 deals and done like 1 deal. Like that's a huge, and actually you learn more as you go. Yeah. But that jump between 0 and 1 is like the biggest jump.
Yeah.
So if you just do something that, you're kind of conservative on the property value and like how much you're putting into the deal, and then like getting some help to review like just the paperwork to make sure there's not some title flaw you don't know about. It's helpful just to get the first one done, and then you can kind of go from there. What I see sometimes is people obsess over trying to optimize everything where they're trying to get their first deal done and they want like the greatest deal possible. And that's a good recipe for like getting stuck and then never getting past that first step. And then you miss out on all the things that are going to come after that.
Yeah, there's been a couple things. One, how important do you think it was for you when you bought your first deal, being able to actually go and drive the neighborhood and actually look and see that house?
It was helpful for like peace of mind. Like, and more I had the opportunity to do it, that's definitely not a requirement. And right now, like none of my properties are in Colorado. And I have taken some trips at various times, like through the Midwest, more to understand specific cities and neighborhoods, which I found helpful. Because sometimes, you're looking on Google Maps or other online data, like some neighborhood looks really nice and you drive through it and you're like, whoa, I'm staying away from here. And I've had the opposite too, where I think it was like Evansville, Indiana. It didn't seem super great, but when I went and visited, I was like, wow, this place is really nice, actually. So it's helpful to do, but by no means a requirement. Like I wouldn't, take away that if you can't put eyes on it, you can't do it. Yeah.
But for your first note, was it pretty important for you on the first one to be able to do it? Because I know for me, when I bought my first note, it was kind of like it was in an area I knew, and actually the first probably 15 to 20 notes were all within a 30 or 40 minute drive of Orlando right here. And so for me, it was really important. And then that when I bought the next one, for me, I agree that first step to buy one is huge. But then for me, the next step was, okay, I'm buying one that I know that I'm not driving to, or I know that it's not just like, hey, it's real easy to get to. And for me, that was another huge step was, okay, I'm buying something in Jacksonville, which is 3 hours away, and I'm not even going to go look at it. I'm going to have somebody else do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was important for me, like just to get comfortable, just to make sure, like, I was understanding what was going on. The other thing I did that year before I bought that I didn't mention was I went to the Note Expo conference in November, just because I was like, I had been following some of these folks, and I'm like, if I'm going to get involved in this world, like I just want to meet some of these characters like face to face and see what's going on. Like I didn't work with any of those folks on that deal, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of see for myself what was going on with like some of the people in the industry and that first specific asset, which turned out like the neighborhood was pretty nice overall. Cause you don't know, right? Like I said, like sometimes I've looked at stuff that seemed nice and there's something really terrible nearby, and other times, you're pleasantly surprised how nice ththings are.
That's pretty cool. We were probably at that Note Expo.
We were, for sure.
Yeah. Might have been the one we met at. It was at I think that
maybe,
was the time.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was a long time ago now.
I think that's the one where we had just the login screen.
2017? No, we had launched in 2017.
Oh, yeah, we had the first iteration.
Oh, did you? I didn't realize you. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, but
the
real one was coming out in 2018.
Yeah, we launched in 2017. I think in October.
Oh, was it September? Because we went to IMN. We launched IMN in California,
and then we
immediately rewrote it. Like before we even got the airport at a coffee shop. We're like, we got to rewrite the whole thing. And I remember I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah. I as a product manager, I know that process.
Yeah.
All too well. But it's kind of the same thing as like playing notes, right? Like there's value in just getting out there and getting information, right? Like if you're launching a product, rather than obsess over make it perfect, it's better just to get something out there, get a bunch of feedback, and then you can go rebuild it if you need to. I mean, it was the same way. Like having gone through a note deal, I learned so much that even if I had like taken a bunch of training beforehand, there's nothing that beats like actually going through the process for yourself and seeing it.
Yeah, the real life going through it. You just got to get in there. At some point, you gotta jump off the cliff and say, "Look, I'm going to figure this out." You know what? Sort of a ready, fire, aim, or I
was thinking that same word.
Ready, fire, aim, or build your parachute on the way down, which is kind of that's what we did. We built our parachute on the way down. I had no clue about note investing other than I knew that I was getting a frame duplex that was worth $50 and I was paying $8,400 for it. I go, that's enough for me. I'll take $8,400 and I'll figure it out, So
yeah. And even though things have changed over 5 or 6 years, I'd argue I still love it because it's a very unexploited area of investing. Like not that many people do it. Like maybe more, like not many people understand. And, if you look at the whole ecosystem of the vendors you work with and everything and that whole process of going through the transaction, like I know that's something you guys are working on improving. Like there's just huge opportunities there to make that more accessible. So if you look at the overall size, like of the mortgage industry and like how many seller finance notes get created, like relative to the amount of like individual investor activity, it's there's still a giant mismatch there. So yeah, it's definitely an area with just opportunities all over the place.
So are you still adding to your portfolio now? You still buying?
Yeah, still am. Yep.
Where you where you put your inventory?
What's that?
Where are you buying your stuff from? Are you you going on Paperstac? Or are you going on? You have just brokers?
Yeah, I've definitely bought some off of Paperstac. Right now, like lately, I've been buying a little more like opportunistically because I'm with my day job keeping me very busy. I want to be careful about not overdoing it and making sure that I can handle because I also use a lot of outside investor money, and so I'm very cautious when I deploy new things. So I have bought some stuff off of Paperstac. Some of my best deals have been I've got a pretty decent sized network now. Mm-hmm. Some of my best deals have been ones that come to me where I have a friend that say like they've got a fund that's run its course and they're getting ready to shut it down. Because a lot of the people that know me and know my buy box, like if it fits, like I'll follow through afterwards. Like that's the other thing you see in the industry is like a lot of buyers are just, can just be flaky. So there's a lot of value in just being someone that knows like, okay, if this fits my criteria and we agree on this price and there's no like weird fatal title flaws, like it'll get executed. That's one thing that's frustrating. Like as a seller of notes sometimes is, you reach an agreement with somebody, they spend weeks doing due diligence and then they disappear. And then like you have to start over and find another buyer, which is always annoying.
I can see that. Yeah. So good stuff. I guess at the tail end of this interview, there's something about you, something you want to share, where you're going to be, where you're doing next. You attending any conferences? You can tell us about the systematic due diligence product. Tell us about that.
So I've got so I've got a couple online courses. So there's a systematic due diligence course that I'm kind of known for. That's a real deep dive on how to do due diligence on first position notes. And then about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I released a note launchpad, which includes the due diligence stuff, but has more of an A to Z on how to do everything from getting started, the due diligence piece, pricing, and then all the systems and processes and operating. And then the other thing that's going to be coming out a little bit later this year, because Note Launchpad is a little bigger and sometimes people only need one piece of that because either they're already experienced and maybe they just want to know how to do systems and processes or how to take on outside funding or something like that. I'm going to offer those as separate individual courses. So I'm in the process of getting that out right now. Nice. So if you just want to learn one piece of it, like you can do that, or you can get the whole bundle and do the whole thing. I have been doing some webinars for a company called Real Estate IQ. So I just did one last week and then there'll be another one coming up in May as well. But yeah, unfortunately don't have any conferences on the agenda right now. I mean, we'll see in the fall if I do anything. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss out on PaperSource here that I think is coming up like in the next week or two. I went to that last year and it was really good. So if anybody has a chance to sneak in there, I recommend it.
Yeah. And we're skipping that. We're going to DME. That's our next
DME in Nashville. And then Node Expo. We'll be at Node Expo in November.
Yeah. That'll be good. It'll be fun.
Yeah, very cool.
I haven't gone through the systematic due diligence course. You did a really good job.
You been through it?
Yeah. I mean, I go through it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can tell it was done by an engineer. Like it's very like systematic. I mean, I did systematic diligence. I mean, it's a process. I mean, and it's very detailed. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, because there's just a lot of little steps. Like, a lot of it's kind of checklist based, just to make sure you don't miss something. Because what I found for me is keeping stuff in my head gets challenging, and it's real easy like to forget. To look at something. And then especially when you start doing, if you own like a couple notes, like day to day, you can keep a lot of the things you need to do in your head, like the follow-ups with loan servicers and attorneys and stuff like that. But once you start going beyond 10, it's challenging. And so, I've tried to build these like frameworks to make it easy so I can just cookie cutter these things and scale. So.
You brought the product manager role to the note space, right?
I did. That's exactly what I did. Yeah, that's exactly.
That's fantastic.
Which I think it needs, right? Because I mean, if you look at at the way like a lot of people do things, especially like at paper stores last year, there were all these dudes who started like back in like the 70s and 80s. And I really enjoy talking to those guys because they've seen like so many different cycles and market conditions. But I'm horrified at how people do stuff on like a legal pad and financial calculator. Like I know like people debate like what's the best financial calculator. I'm like, why wouldn't you just put everything in a spreadsheet so you can save it and create different versions and make it easier?
Yeah.
So
No idea why that keeps happening, but
I can see that. Well, good stuff.
yeah, man.
Yeah, good.
Appreciate you coming on there. Any last words of wisdom that you want to leave for people who are getting into the note space, or any of our listeners out there who are thinking about buying a note?
yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about buying your first one, I mean, obviously like do some homework to protect yourself to make sure you're buying a good note where the title's good and there's equity. But beyond that, don't sweat the small stuff and get stuck. Because like I said earlier, like there's a big difference between having bought 0 and having bought 1. So if you can get yourself past that step, then it just opens up the floodgates to all kinds of other opportunities.
I love it.
That's true. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Nice talking to you.
Yeah.
We'll see you maybe in the fall at some conferences. If not,
Hopefully.
I'll check out,
Yeah.
I'll check out your courses. I'm interested.
it's good. It's real good. Well, now that we know
Yeah,
you're
for
with
sure.
AWS, maybe we'll be moving over the stuff to AWS to be on those servers. No, I'm joking. We're on fire basically.
Yeah, they've got plenty of capacity. Yeah, I don't, but I mean, yeah.
Cool. All right, then. I'll talk to you sometime soon. See you, Dan.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.